Joe Budden says Danny from the Stop is his op and that he unfollowed him on Twitter.
Danny's a op. Yeah, I had to unfollow
Since the cameo.
He just goofy on the timeline. Ain't never getting. He ain't never going to dinner. Just tweeting goofy all day. It's over. It's over now. Okay. If y'all such fans of all of these other shows, why y'all don't make the living off of the other shows?
Oh, because I got a profit off you.
There you go. All right.
We got to start where it's working at.
I think
No, I respect that honesty. I do.
Documenting the rise is interesting, but documenting the fall is also interesting.
But also, but document them other you love so much. But you can't because you don't make no money off it. Huh?
No, I do. Oh my God! Some of my biggest views videos was from
Nieces and Mero. That's his biggest video.
Stop it!
I don't know, Joe. I might have chosen the wrong person.
Oh, good. Change your channel to a tax channel. I'll throw a party.
Those tax videos did great. That's right, y'all. In a recent Twitter space, Joe Budden got really upset and let me know that I am his op. Interesting terminology. But also, Joe Budden said that he unfollowed me on Twitter. He really dropped that information like a baddie. And we have to zoom out and look at the events over the last week that have led to Joe Budden taking a stance, putting his best foot in and snapping his finger and letting me know that he's on the other side now. Now, over the weekend around Saturday and I think Sunday, I was doing spaces, and everybody knows Rocky Thunder, who is somebody in Joe Budden's orbit and hates him, loves him, I don't know how to describe it, has been appearing on spaces. Initially, I was very hesitant to have Rocky on my spaces because I felt like Rocky was coming for blood. It was kind of confirmed, and I mean, Rocky herself has said she wants to see Joe fail. But I do my best to not make it get too ugly. Like I felt like I couldn't stop Rocky from coming to my spaces and allowing her to be on stage because that would be weird. It's odd. It's like, Rocky doesn't have an issue with me. So I started bringing her up. Shout out to Rocky. She started bringing Taxstone up. And Taxstone has been joining the spaces that we do. He also does his own spaces that's more like his podcast. But what also happened is that Rocky and Tax threw a space which I joined, and then Rory joined, and then Maul joined, and people were saying it looked a certain way because all of Joe Budden's ops were clicking together. One of those people was Cobb, who is a member of the Joe Budden TV community, and someone I think, I don't know, he's a bit of a troll himself. Sometimes I wonder why he trolls his way all the time. Like, I think he has a big part to play in all of the perceptions and narratives about the podcast. Joe starts subtweeting us from his account. Granted, Joe Budden had just suffered a loss. Apparently, listening to the podcast, one of his family members passed away, so maybe he was feeling not the best. And he was listening to the space in the Anonymous and just saying things like, when I start getting on my bully, don't call me a bully because I'm going to be I'm Joe Budden. People started running with this narrative that we were trying to bash Joe. But I can tell you that space was really not about Joe. I think a minute was spent where Tax talked about how Joe was manipulating Rory and Maul. And Rory actually declined to even go into that line of thinking. He wanted to move on. So this is an example of people taking a narrative about it and just stretching it for the sake of making it look like TV. That space was fine. I think Taxstone is not even going to mention Joe further. I think, to me, it looks like even Tax knows that he probably needs to let that go. But it all leads to Monday, June 24th. After a while of Joe Budden refusing to come to the spaces that I throw, Joe joins the space that I was on and starts getting mad. And, Joe says, I get no women. I think it's he exhibits kind of this like old man persona where a man's masculinity is defined by the women he sleeps with. So that's what he starts saying. You get no women, you get no hoes. So I jokingly say, where's Tax at? I want to speak to the man of the space. And that sets Joe off a bit. He starts saying, well, why don't you cover Taxstone? Why do you cover me? Cover him. And I said, some of my tax videos do well, but no, I'm not going to stop. I need to break down your pod because people like it when I do that. So then we start talking about tax spaces, and we ask if Joe will join. And Joe says, I don't see tax spaces. And I was like, are you scared of tax? But I just said it as kind of a, you scared of tax talking to tax. I didn't mean it in like you scared to like be around him or nothing like that. But that set Joe Budden off. And it made him go into this tirade where he said that he unfollowed me and that I'm an op. Now, I'm sorry, but I was a bit taken aback by this. Because all the times I'm on spaces with Joe, it'd be the most disrespectful stuff that he says to me. Granted, I just take it on the chin because, hey, it's content. It's funny. It's, you know, when he tells me, you get no hoes, Danny. You're a loser, Danny. You're a bum, Danny. I just fire back with my own way of offense, passive-aggressive jokes. Here are my 3 go-tos. It's like I'm Kobe Bryant, you know. Kobe Bryant said that he only had like 2 moves. I have 3 moves when combating Joe. 1, you robbed Rory and Maul. 2, Charlemagne gets more views than you. 3, this was a new one I just added. It's like learning a hook shot. You're scared of tax. I just said his spaces seem a little bit more lit than you for now. I'm not saying that's always going to be the case. Joe's a big star. Of course he's going to. But that was just the battle that we was going through. And I was kind of surprised Joe got so angry he left the space. Now, granted, he might have just got a call and needed to leave. I understand that. And of course, I had to acknowledge there's a bunch of fans of Joe that will attack me. They will say things like, Danny, you built your platform off of Joe. Call me delusional, call me whatever you want to call me. But just because I make content about Joe does not mean that I have to be quiet or subservient to Joe. Right? If he disses me, I can diss him back. A lot of you judge what I do through the prism of what you would do. Like if Joe gave you attention, you would acquiesce to whatever he wanted. But that's not my thing. Joe is rude. Joe is disrespectful. Joe is mean to people. I don't know Joe. He's not my friend. We haven't talked. Half of the time we engage in spaces, it's very demeaning. Shig's got you wiped down. Funny. Menace is better than you. Menace Entertainment. Shout out to those guys. Those are my actual friends. I think they're cool with me. I could be wrong. But just very rude things. You leaked my picture. Don't think I don't remember that, right? You took a picture of me at my fattest. I was weighing like 250 and you posted it. And then you have the unmitigated gall to say you weren't trying to make fun of me while we were on a space where people were making fun of me. I think this was highly sensitive by Joe. And I always promote that Joe Budden is a sensitive dude. When he says he's not sensitive, that's just a cover-up and a lie that he told that he eventually would believe. Like I said in a previous video, being sensitive makes you better at certain things. It makes you better as a content creator. It makes you more observant. And Joe's old masculine ways of defining men by the women that they sleep with is being challenged. It's being challenged by someone like me who will fire back with the jokes verbally, and even by Taxstone. Taxstone is, as you know, he fits that mold of the masculine guy who down to do whatever. He's not going to be disrespected. And in the face of that, Joe doesn't stack up sometimes. And I think that's why he got so angry and decided to unfollow me on Twitter. And I have to say, who cares if you unfollowed me on Twitter? You followed me. It's not, I didn't make you do that. I didn't say, hey, make sure you, there's other people who beg Joe for the follow on Twitter. I never did that. I never wanted to be someone defined by my attachment to Joe, because a lot of my content, 90% of it was made without like even being followed by Joe. Why would I care if he follows me now? And so this is great. This is healthy for the brand. I think Joe was largely in his feelings. Been a rough week in terms of what's going on in his personal life, but that's not an excuse to act crazy. You don't think I've been through things in my personal life when I was making content, and I gotta go on the channel and have people insult my character that don't even know me and only relate to me through my content? You don't think Joe always undermining my value, which he has done to a lot of people, including people he sits on the couch with now, is annoying? But you just gotta push through it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Dealing with Joe on the spaces, and I imagine as a co-host, isn't easy. He curates his own reality. He has a set of fans that affirm his terrible behaviors because they're entertained by him. It's kind of hard to hold him accountable when there's nothing but Joe fans saying, oh, it's okay, he's an entertainer. You can't hate me, but still be cool with what Joe does. I'm pretty nice. I don't really engage in any weirdo stuff. Especially when it comes to verbal. I don't curse nobody out. I don't talk about anybody's personal lives. All of the stuff I said to Joe was public. Charlemagne does get more views than you. Taxstone did take over the space for a little bit. You had a lot of issues with Rory and Maul. It looked funny to me. Why are Rory and Maul around? They should be around. That's all. But anyway, let me know what you think about this exchange, about me and Joe. It's part of the series here, The Stopper and Joe Budden. The saga continues. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Spaces is getting a little crazy. People ask me if I would do anything differently. Certainly not. This has been a fun ride. Follow me once again, like I said. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.